So we got some votes. Let's take some votes. I can think of 4 categories of how we can vote. How many say Bert is the better student? We got 1. We got 2. I want to come back to you guys. We got 3 and 4. Okay, we got 4. That's 4 more votes than Bert got in the previous class. Excellent. Get some love, Bert. Ernie is the better student. That's about right. That's about right. We'll come back to some of you folks too. We can't tell. They're the same student. In other words, they're the same student. Couple votes for that. They're the same student. I think they might be different, but I'm not exactly sure how to express it right now. Nobody. Okay, Sarah's like, I kind of like that one. That was a previous class made that one up. They're like, well, I don't really agree with any of that. I think they're different, but they're the same. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point. How many of you guys, when I asked you to analyze Bert and Ernie, went straight to these bad boys? Yeah, excellent. That was my intent. My intent was leading down that path. And what did you find?
Similar.
Very, very similar, right? You got Ernie, and you got Bert. Let's scratch down some of this. I mean, almost everybody in here had the same measures. Almost all of you had calculated their averages. Which were? 81 across the board, yeah? 81 and 81, beautiful. So they're the same there. On average, they're the same. Literally, on average, they're the same. Anybody do a mode? There wasn't one, which very often happens. I try to avoid the mode anyway, unless I have qualitative data. Median? Do a median, maybe?
Yeah.
What are the medians?
82. 81 for
Yes, okay, got it. 81 for Ernie, 82 for Bert. Right? Bert's got a slightly higher one. But I mean, we're talking about 1 point difference. I want to call those equal. Anybody do a trimmed mean? I'm gonna throw this out here as a mention, and you're gonna come back to it on your first. Nathan, you did? Fantastic. What are they?
Bert's was 86, Ernie's was 81.5.
How did you do your trimmed means?
I dropped the lowest.
Oh, let's be fair. Drop the lowest and the highest.
Oh.
Remember that? I know we're so used to that trimmed mean being a dropping the lowest score, and I know it seems Nazi-ish, but you gotta drop the high too. A trimmed mean balances by throwing the high and the low. Thank you, Nathan. So if we do it that way, yes. But even if doing it that way, they didn't change very much, did it? Well, 86 pumped up quite a bit, picked up 5 points. But let's just throw the top and the bottom out. So Ernie would lose 79 and 83. Meaning he's still got an average of 81, doesn't he?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trimming off. This is actually technically kind of a morbid trimmed mean. I'm throwing 20% of the data off the top and 20% off the bottom. And Sarah's like, you shouldn't do this. Well, with a small data set, you're kind of limited what we can do so far. How about Bert?
80 points.
100 and...
Wait, 100 has to go and 61 has to go, which gives us 81.3. Oh, thank you guys. So, Gesundheit over here. Whatever that was. Statistics allergies. It happens this time of year. So on center, how do they compare?
Bert's in.
Bert's in. Why is Bert in?
He's not bringing a toy to class, number one. He's dressed.
He's not bringing a toy to class,
I'm not too big
so
on
he's more
unibrow,
mature.
but,
What? Lauren? Thank you, Richie, for that. Go ahead, Lauren.
I have a question about consistency.
Consistency.
Because that was my reasoning for why Ernie was a better student. He was
Okay.
consistent.
So those of you that voted for Ernie being the better student weren't probably looking at this. If you're looking at this and making your call based on this, you're saying they're the same student. But if you look just at this, if I take away the raw data and you look just at this, I mean, yeah, they're the same student. But then when you let your eyes go from here back up to there, something happens. Lauren's saying consistency. What are some words? I'm going to turn the overhead off for a second. What are some words that you remember about measures of center? What were some of those words we were using with things like average and median and mode? What are some of those words that conversationally came up in those discussions? You remember?
Common.
Say that again.
Common.
Common. Yes. This is I'm not good. Common. Good. What else?
Typical.
Typical. What else? I'm not sure how many we got. Every class is different, so.
Normal.
Normal? That starts with an N, not an R. Phew. So, what word did Lauren just use? Consistency. Consistency. Huh. So Ernie is consistent. Bert, not so much.
He's all over the place.
So he's all over the place. So now I'm hearing these words like consistent or inconsistent.
Precise.
Oh, thank you. Inconsistent.
Around.
Precise or imprecise. Keep going.
Around.
Oh, around.
Around.
Around, that would actually fall into both, I think. Are you thinking of around for over here, Maya, though?
Yeah.
Around in what way?
I'm guessing it's on the other side.
No, but tell me how you thought of it for this, though. How were you thinking of it? Well, use it like in a sentence.
I don't know.
You sure?
Yeah.
I can see maybe how you thought, like, all of Ernie's were kind of around the same place, but Bert's were not around that same place, and that the problem with that is I just gave you a visual and some of you are nodding like, yeah, Ernie's like this, and Bert's like this. But if you think about it, they're both kind of around the same thing, right? I mean, we just proved that over here. They are both around the same thing. The difference, Nathan, you gave me the precise, right? The difference is in the precision. It's kind of like buckshot coming out of a shotgun. Is it a tight cluster or a wide cluster? They might still be hitting the same bullseye, but the wider cluster is less precision. Laura, go ahead.
Depends on what choke you have in your
That's
shotgun.
right.
What you're aiming at.
I believe you.
Target is.
I have no idea what the hell you just said, but I believe you. Or how far back you are, for all things being equal. I imagine, I could be wrong about this, I imagine the further back, the more chance it gets to spread out.
Depends on what choke you have.
Okay.
Well,
I totally plead ignorance on this one. I don't. But the idea is that both Bert and Ernie are, that's why I was kind of going with both around. They're both around the same thing, but that around goes like this. So I think with these words, we kind of measured your around differently, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And here's the deal, friends. Here's the deal. This is great. This is fantastic. The problem with this is it doesn't paint a complete picture. Right now, if I asked you, forget the original data, and I gave you that chart, what's the only thing you could say about the students? They're essentially the same. It's kind of like last week when I gave you that, I gave you my class, 63 students, average of 71, median of 78, draw a graph. Right? All of you, almost every single person here drew a bell curve, which is fantastic. Why would you think anything else, right? But then what actually happened was wildly variant from that. Wildly variant from bimodal, spread out all over the place. So, but without that data, you can't make that call. So that's why we need some other kind of measure. Now, all of these words are fantastic, by the way. They're fantastic. But I want to call them statistically, what statisticians call them, are measures of variation. And here's the deal. That's what I want to spend the rest of today and into Thursday. Has Bruce got into this in your physics class? Awesome, fantastic. We chit-chat about it a lot today. Yes, it's wonderful. It's also kind of non-intuitive. You guys learned about this stuff when you were like in 4th grade. I mean, honestly. You probably think as soon as you could divide, teachers were like, sweet, now we can do averages. I'm like, okay, that's good. It's like, it's cute and it's awesome. But if a student is just blindly plugging numbers into a formula and getting a value out and not knowing what it means, that's when I start getting nervous. Nobody does this in the elementary grades, and you're about to see why. It's kind of counterintuitive. But my argument, and this is a good argument, trust me on this one, is that these two need to occur together. If we only talk about the measures of center in this class, we are doing y'all a grave disservice. Because if I only talk about measures of center, then when you have data sets like this, granted it's fictitious because I made it up, but it doesn't give you a good way of talking. In 244, we just analyzed houses for sale, foreclosure rates of houses that are for sale. In other words, of the houses that are for sale in certain areas, right? Of houses that are for sale in certain areas. What percentage of them are foreclosed before they get put up for sale, or foreclosed upon before they get put up for sale? Well, the average of Bend versus the average of Deschutes County versus the average of Oregon as a whole is almost identically 9.3%. Almost identical. At least it was in 2010, and then in December of 2013 when I had the last data set that I pulled. Okay, those data sets. Almost identically. Now, if you think about it, when you actually read the news, they talk about foreclosure rates going up, going down, going up, going down. So where are they getting these going up and going downs from if they're at 9.3% almost uniformly? Hold that thought, we'll come back to it. Hold that thought and we'll come back to it. But this gives us the tool to talk about it. If the centers are the same, how can they be different? Right, you see what I'm getting at? How can they be different? We need a way to measure these beautiful, beautiful things that you guys came up with up here. Fantastic, fantastic. Please, it's ready to go.
Sorry, I'm taking formalities. What's the second word on measures of center?
Oh, it should be typical. I don't know what the hell I wrote though.
It's all right. No, it's
That was supposed to be a Y. Let's fix that for those playing the home game. Typical. No, please don't be a note-taking Nazi in here. Thank you. We're making a resource for folks. Want to make sure if the sound can't be right, at least the writing is. Richie, go!
I have a thing with Bert being better because he can hit 100%.
Okay, good. Hold that, hold that. Can I pull the screen back down? Is that okay? I want to put the original scores back up. Now we're going to get into some nuts and bolts. All right, so Richie's got to vote. We got to vote for Bert because Bert can hit 100%. Okay, so at least if we talk about, and we got to be careful. We got to be careful about how much we read into these numbers. But Bert has determined that he can hit 100%. Does this prove that Ernie can't? It doesn't prove that Ernie. Well, it kind of implies that he can't get that high. But again, we got to be careful how far we take that. I like that statement though. But what does Bert also show us? That he can get this. Is that what you're gonna say, Austin? Yeah, I mean,
to prove that he hits 100, you got to prove that he hits a 61 with points and heads.
this is kind of, we go back to Nathan's point about the trimmed mean. You can throw off Bert's 61,
Maybe he had a bad day.
but maybe he had a good day, an artificially good day. I'm not going to go down that road if you don't mind.
Oh, no.
We can. I just don't want to I don't want to get uber analytical with Bert and Ernie and take us down the path. Sherry, go.
See, I have an issue with Bert's 100 because usually the first test of the term is like reviewy stuff, and he's not picking up the rest of it except once.
He just got dropped off. But he got 94 second to last.
Oh.
Here, let's do this.
Oh,
We'll just do that.
definitely Bert.
I love what you just said. You guys are getting really analytical, and I love it. But put it there, and we'll suppose he aced the last one. I'm not trying to be a bastard. What I'm trying to imply, though, is the position of the 5 test doesn't matter. But what she just said is good. I mean, a lot of times we do a reviewee test. I promise not to give you a review test on your first exam. I consider that a waste of your guys' time and tuition dollars. I mean, I gave you a review quiz, hopefully you didn't mind about that. But as far as everything else, you should be learning new material. Promise, promise, promise. All right, newish, and this is definitely the first new stuff you're going to be doing. Okay, good. Other thoughts?
I think it does matter, absolutely, because then you're talking about Bert's a better student because his rate of improvement and comprehension is getting better, and Ernie's is kind of staying the same.
Well, again, you're putting a linear direction in here, right? So I mean, don't do that.
Okay.
Not because you shouldn't. Because I actually used to do that. When I gave more exams, I would track my students' progress across the exams. And if they showed a slight trend upward within a certain measure of consistency, I would add a certain number of points back in. It was a very convoluted formula, kind of like the tax code.
But why wouldn't you? Why
I don't want you to. I want you to ignore time. I'm trying to remove a variable. See, what you guys are doing is fantastic with all this micromanaging, and I love it. What I'm trying to do is make it more general. Don't put the variable of time on there. We'll deal with time on the out-of-class exam when it's more pertinent. I want to focus only on the differences in the numbers. Not necessarily where they fall. I mean, you could arrange these 5 numbers in any of 120 different ways. I just happen to put them in that one way. So you could, I mean, if you think about it this way too, he's actually showing kind of, I mean, if you look at it, it's a trend up, then a drop down, then a trend up. It's like, that's kind of, at least he's staying flat-ish. Ish. There's that word. 3-letter word you're very, very used to in this class, ish. So, has anybody come up with a way to quantifiably measure consistency or lack thereof based on these guys? Tell me your name.
Michelle,
Michelle, go!
the point spread?
What's the point spread? Tell me. Let
So-
me start and start. Stop and start.
I don't know if that's what it's really called.
It should be, because it's